Thanksgiving isn't just turkey. The 4th of July isn't just fireworks. And Memorial Day isn't just some long weekend. They're all answers to the same question. What story are we telling ourselves about who we are? And that's why every year around Juneteenth, people start arguing because folks aren't just debating the holiday. They're debating ownership of the story. Who does this belong to? What exactly are we celebrating? And maybe the bigger question, what are we supposed to do with painful history once enough time has passed? Today, we're going to look at several perspectives because I think a lot of people on all sides have reduced Juneteenth to a slogan, T-shirt, and social media posts. And honestly, that might be the least interesting thing about this entire conversation. So let's go and get started.
Them giving us a date for Juneteenth, they acknowledge you guys were our slaves. And not only that, you guys found out 2 years later. So we're going to celebrate that y'all found out 2 years later. That's a spit in the face. To celebrate the end of slavery, and that wasn't the end the day we found out. We found out 2 years later. So we celebrating the fact that we found out 2 years later than everybody. So now this is what happens. Capitalism trumps citizenship. What do you mean by that, Charleston? Now you got Juneteenth shirts in Walmart, Target. They benefit off this now. We don't. You're not going to see a bunch of black people being able to sell out of these Juneteenth stores and Juneteenth posters like they do for the 4th of July. So now the capitalist wins off this, not black people. We was already celebrating the holiday. We was already celebrating it, so we lose. I would much rather Joe Biden had sat down and listened to Ice Cube than made this a holiday. I would much rather Joe Biden had sat down and listened to what Ice Cube had to say with that plan that he had than giving us a national federal holiday. You know what we needed before this national federal holiday? A new crime bill. We need a new crime bill. We don't need no motherfucking holiday. I'll never celebrate the day again. I never celebrate it again because it meant much more to me when the white man didn't confirm it and validate it for me.
Now, Charleston White always says things in a way that people will either throw their phone or nod their head immediately. But underneath all the Charleston whiteness, he's asking a serious question, right? Are we celebrating freedom or celebrating the delay of freedom? Because historically, Juneteenth marks June 19th, 1865, when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas finally learned that they were free more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, some people hear that and say, exactly, that's why we celebrate. Freedom finally arrived. Others hear it and say, hold on, why are we commemorating how late the message showed up? That's a real conversation, right? Personally, I think remembering suffering dishonors people. I don't think remembering suffering dishonors people, excuse me. I think forgetting does. But I also understand Charleston's frustration with reducing history into corporate merchandise, because the minute Walmart can put something on a cap, you know, America has officially turned into a shopping season, and both parties are guilty of this. You know, the left loves symbolic victories because symbolism is cheaper than solving problems. Corporations love symbolic victories because symbols don't require sacrifice. Everybody gets to post. Nobody has to build. But before we even argue over whether Juneteenth should be celebrated, people can't even agree on what Juneteenth actually represents. Watch this.
If I'm seeing anything other than red, white, and blue as your colors that you're promoting Juneteenth, if I see Pan-African anything, if I see African anything, then I'm not fucking going. And as a matter of fact, I'm not supporting, and I'm going to tell all my people not to support that either, because Juneteenth has nothing to do with fucking Africa. Literally. Why do I keep seeing Pan-African colors on Juneteenth advertisements? Like, y'all are so annoying. There's supposed to be a Juneteenth festival in Orlando and in Tampa, and I keep seeing red, green, and black instead of red, white, and blue. And then I keep seeing the vendors aren't Black American too. Yeah, it's a no. It's an absolutely no. Because what are you doing? Hijacking. It's Pan-Africans be the death of Black Americans. I swear to God. Now, if I'm seeing anything other than
this debate right here is bigger than colors. red, black, and green versus red, white, and blue. On the surface, it sounds like a flag argument, but it isn't. It's an identity argument. One side sees Juneteenth as part of a broader African story. The other sees it as uniquely American, as a uniquely American black story. And here's why I think people miss something. You can acknowledge African ancestry while also recognizing that Black Americans created a culture, history, and experience that is uniquely American. Jazz happened, blues happened, okay? The civil rights movement happened here. Juneteenth happened here. History doesn't become less meaningful because it's specific. In fact, how you say it? Specificity? Specific. I don't know how you say that word, y'all. Specificity is usually what makes history powerful. Y'all know what I'm trying to say, at least. Forgive me. I'm a little dyslexic. And that brings us to another perspective that pushes this entire idea even further.
Juneteenth is not a black thing.
Right.
It ain't a white thing. It ain't a Texas thing.
Wow.
But it began in Texas back in 1865 when a General Gordon Granger made his way to Galveston with maybe 7,000 colored troops. And the enslaved in Galveston had been waiting and waiting. They'd have watch night services at their church, waiting for freedom. Finally came June the 19th, 1865, when he read General Order Number 3, and then he nailed it to the door of what's now Reedy Chapel, African Methodist Episcopal Church. And when those people came in from their labor and somebody read that to them, we started celebrating, and we've been celebrating ever since.
Wow. Wow.
Juneteenth is
Now,
not a black.
One thing I appreciate about this clip is that it forces people to go back and study, because somewhere along the line, we stopped researching and started decorating. Most Americans, black, white, Republican, Democrat, Independent, couldn't tell you what General Order Number 3 even was. Me being guilty of that as well. Yet everybody has an opinion. That's the social media era in one sentence. Strong opinions, weak historical literacy. And that's dangerous, because when people stop knowing history, history becomes available for rebranding, if you will. The loudest people in a room eventually become historians by default. It's happening everywhere in America right now. Now, I want you to compare those conversations to how Senator Tim Scott frames Juneteenth.
As we celebrate this Juneteenth holiday, let us also remember the 250th anniversary of America. What is the most important and foundational promise of America? Freedom. That's why when the enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas finally received word that they were free, all of America celebrated. All of America should celebrate freedom everywhere. From the West Coast to the East Coast, from the North to the South, Black folks, white folks, Asian Americans, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We all should celebrate freedom. Juneteenth, an opportunity to bring all Americans together, because free at last, all Americans were finally free. As we celebrate this Juneteenth holiday.
What Tim Scott is doing here is trying to place Juneteenth inside a larger American story. And some people, they just hate that. But here's a question worth asking. Should America's victory belong only to the people who suffered through the struggle, or should they eventually belong to the entire country? Because if freedom expanded in America on June 19th, 1865, then American history inherited that victory. Not equally, not immediately, but eventually. A mature nation should be capable of acknowledging its sins without making those sins its entire identity. A country, or countries rather, just like people, need memory, but they also need direction. And then you have the woman, often called the grandmother of Juneteenth, saying something that surprised a lot of people.
Juneteenth is coming up, but there's a big problem because most people think Juneteenth colors are red, black, and green. But that's not Juneteenth. That's Pan-African. And I know this might sound wild, but stay with me because by the end of this, you're going to look at Juneteenth completely different. Juneteenth is not an African holiday. It is an American holiday. It is the day that enslaved people in Galveston, Texas found out they were free right here on this soil in this country. And Juneteenth became an official United States federal holiday in June of 2021. So Juneteenth actually has its own flag, and most people have never seen it. It's red, white, and blue with a star in the center and a burst around it. The star has a dual meaning. One, it represents Texas, the Lone Star State, and it also represents the freedom of foundational Black Americans across all 50 states. And the burst around it represents a new beginning, the birth of a new day, and a fresh start for newly freed people. The same colors as the American flag, because the message is clear. Our freedom is American history, not borrowed from somewhere else. A foundational Black American who is a community organizer and activist named Ben Haith designed the flag in 1997 because he believed that Juneteenth deserved a symbol that told the truth about what the holiday actually is. This Juneteenth, don't let corporate America tell you how to represent our foundational Black American holiday. And let me know in the comments, did you know this already?
Yeah, you know, some people are going to be upset hearing, you know, it's not a Black thing. But I think she's speaking from a different place, right? I think what she's saying is freedom should never stay confined to one group. The lesson of slavery isn't just Black Americans were denied freedom. The lesson is that whenever any society decides certain people deserve less dignity, everybody eventually pays a price. History has a way of spreading consequences, which is why studying Juneteenth matters. Not because America was perfect, but because America corrected something that should have never existed in the first place. And nations willing to correct themselves are still worth investing in. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't know any of this.
What is Juneteenth?
What is Juneteenth? You know what Juneteenth is.
I don't know. You got
No idea?
no idea.
Is that is a celebration of I don't want this to be wrong, so I don't want it to be on the news.
It's the celebration of, now don't ask me what state, where they took the state and they actually messed up the homes of all the blacks that lived there. They ruined it, and then now it's celebrated as Juneteenth.
I think basically it's a time for like little kids come together or something like that.
I mean, it's a long story. I know really what happened, but it was a Wall Street for the blacks. I think so.
For some reason, it's recognized as a holiday that there was a gap between when the people knew they were freed in, I believe, Texas, and they didn't learn until June 19th. So there was a period of time they're actually freed and didn't know it.
I think you might be right, but I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
All right.
But to me, it's a bizarre holiday because it's basically celebrating not knowing you're free.
Yeah, this clip is funny. But honestly, it should be. Because ignorance doesn't just happen. Somebody failed to teach. And now we've got millions of Americans arguing passionately about a holiday they couldn't explain without Google. It's not a Juneteenth problem. That's an education problem. We spend so much time teaching people what to think politically that we forget to teach people what happened historically. History should challenge us, not recruit us. At the end of the day, whether you celebrate Juneteenth or not, it's your choice. But if you're going to celebrate it, criticize it, defend it, or argue about it online, at least know what you're talking about. Because memory without understanding eventually turns into mythology. And mythology can be manipulated by anybody loud enough to grab a microphone. So let me know what you think about it in the comments. Do you celebrate Juneteenth or not? Why not? And I'm going to close with this. Well, if you made it to the end of this video, I ain't give y'all a word the last video. I want you to put memory if you made it to the end of this video. And the closing scripture in today's video will be John 8:32. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You guys be safe. Go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.